Watching my homies, DJ80 here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of a speaker system, and this is the Maui LD28 G2 system. So it's a new and revised product, and it's an upgrade from the LD28. So let's have a look in the box and see what we've got. So this is what we get in the boxes. We get the main bass unit, and we get the column part in two parts. We get a manual, and we get an EU plug. So I've just had a quick read through the instructions, and this is where we're at. So the two column part, one stacks on top of the other. You can't get it wrong because one of them has these support holes here for a column to go in, and the other one obviously doesn't. But if you get confused with that, one also has single eye on and one has two eyes on for the top column. So they have these nice strong pins that add stability when you slot them together, and it all feels quite sturdy. And then they slot into the top of the unit here. So you have a separate volume button for the bass speaker. Then you have your main volume button as well. Then you have four LEDs here. Okay, you have four LEDs here. You have one when the power is on. You have a signal light which comes on when a signal is connected, so your mixer or your Bluetooth, whatever your audio device is. You then have a separate limit light as well, so this is handy. That will flash and come on and let you know that you're getting to the point where it could be clipping. You also have a protect light. Now that's bad news if that comes on. That means the unit's overheating, it's being pushed too hard. Maybe you haven't got it properly ventilated, but that's a light that you don't want to see come on when you're using the speaker. These two LEDs here, this is for how it's set up. So you can actually buy brackets for this system and have the top part, the column, mounted on the wall. So if you do that, this light will come on. But if you just have it as is with the column on top of the bass speaker, this light will be on. Then you have these two lights here and a little button. So one, if you're just using one speaker on its own, you choose mono. And if you're using two speakers, you press the button and it will switch to stereo. Then onto the back, you've got your power button at the bottom there with 3-pin plug input, and I did check the manual and it says in the manual an appropriate plug is provided. So I will be sending an email to Why Buy New and asking them to provide one of them. And then on the back of the unit itself, we have a separate mic jack, and it's a multi input. You have line in options, so you have the RCA there, and you also have a left and right multi input, and that has its own separate volume control as well, along with the mic volume control. Over here, this is a jack input for things like a guitar, and this controls the low level input for that guitar as well. And then on this side here you have the Bluetooth input, and you've got a volume control for your Bluetooth, and you've got a little button here which you press when you want to link to Bluetooth. It also has an MP3 input, and then just on the bottom here you have two options. You've got a sub out connector, so you can connect a separate sub, and then you've got your system out connector as well. So if you buy a pair of these speakers, which is what I've done, you connect a cable from here to the line input here on the other speaker, and then it will work in stereo. And just remembering to press your stereo button at the top here. Now the manual also states that you can have more than one input at a time. So for instance, you could have an input using your RCA and an input using these multi-points here. Also you could have over here an MP3 input, and you can also use Bluetooth input, both at the same time. So there's a lot of options here. This is a unit all set up. Basically I've just plugged it in from my laptop. I've had a slight play of the settings, and I've had a listen, but I'm gonna upset my neighbours. But I'll give you a short demo using one of my songs, and you can have a listen for yourself. I followed the instructions in the booklet, and I think I've wired it up properly. So these two leads here, that's my RCA in, that's coming from my laptop, and this is a line level here which according to the manual adjusts the volume, so I think it's a bit like a gain button. Then this lead here is the one that I need to have a stereo signal from my other speaker. So I've plugged it in here on this one, and it goes around, and then over here, according to the manual, it goes into this port here. Now one of the things you have to make sure is that this dial is turned to the max, which I have, and that the dials on the top are pretty much in the same position as the ones on the other speakers, which they are. Now you will see here right now that this says mono, so it's not in stereo. In order for me to make it stereo, I have to go back to the first speaker here. Again, you'll see it says mono, and with this speaker I have to press that. There we go, and now that's gone to stereo. Sorry it's a bit blurred, my phone's not having it. And I thought that one went to stereo automatically as well, but maybe it doesn't, so I'll have to press that one as well. There we go. So all things being equal, when I play my music now, we should have a stereo sound. You might also be able to see here that first LED shows that the speaker is on. The second LED shows that it's receiving a music signal, and this LED here is the setup that I have on the speaker. So we have sound coming out. Yep. Yep. Yes, and we have sound as it should be coming out of the speakers. So next I'm going to try the Bluetooth function. Next I'm going to try the speaker out using Bluetooth. So I've got my iPad here, and I've got my Bluetooth on, and what I need to do here on the back of this is press this little button here to hold and link. So hold it for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and then hopefully on my iPad yeah, it's there. And it's connected. So if I just want to make sure my volume's not too high. What was that? Yeah, that'll do. And let's see if it works. Oh yeah, how about I turn the volume up? Yeah, that's alright. Turn it up a little bit more here. Okay, that's coming out quite clearly. Okay. Right, let's test the range of the Bluetooth. Okay, I'm going to go out the room now. Okay, so I've actually got a wall in front of me. I'm just going to go further away. Ah, we lost it. Okay, so it's breaking up a little bit here. The range does say in the manual that it's 10 meters. And to disconnect the Bluetooth, we just hold that again for 3 seconds. Right, so the Bluetooth works. The range isn't fantastic, but bear in mind it's going to be it's unlikely that you're going to be using this from behind a wall. I don't think. I won't be anyway. But that's the range of the Bluetooth. So let's start with the negatives then. There aren't many, I have to say. Probably the biggest negative for some people is the price. These are between £700 and £800 currently, depending on where you look. And I'd advise you, especially if you're starting out, don't get yourself into debt with an expensive pair of speakers. It's not expensive equipment that makes you a good DJ. It's a multiple of things. You know, your equipment, your lighting, your song choice, your ability to read a crowd, your experience, your music library. There's all sorts of things to take into consideration. So if you're just starting out, obviously if you can afford them and you want to buy them, do so. But sometimes it's better to start off with more basic equipment, or dare I say cheaper equipment, because then as you progress and you upgrade your stuff, you can actually see and tell for yourself the difference, and see if you're getting better value for money when you pay more. Also, the columns are quite heavy, so I bought this ski bag that you can see here, because the cases and stuff typically for speakers like this is quite expensive, and you can end up spending a few £100. So I bought the ski bag from eBay, and it cost me £22. I brought one for the turbo sound speakers that I had, but when I got rid of them, I gave the guy the bag as well. So I transport my speakers, the columns already pre-connected up here. So this takes me on to another negative point about these. It might just be this pair that I have here, but I think it's going to be all of them. The connections for the pins is really tight, and when I first set these up, I actually had to get my partner to hold the top one whilst I held the bottom one, and we both pulled in opposite directions to disconnect them. And it was the same for the bottom pins as well. So with these that go into the subwoofer box, I wiped just a small dab of copper grease around the pins so that they would slot out the subwoofer a bit more easily. And I'm transporting these connected anyway, so it's not such a big issue. And in fact, the fact that they are in really tight means when I transport them, I haven't got to worry about them disconnecting in transit. But for those of you, maybe the maturer DJs who don't want to be lifting heavy stuff, you just might want to consider that. Maybe get 2 separate bags for them. So they are quite heavy, and actually, because I'm transporting both columns together in a bag, that actually comes to about 22.5 kilos, which is about 3 kilos more than just one of the subwoofers. So it might be a negative for some of you if carrying heavy equipment is an issue. So on to the positives then, and there are quite a few. So I'm going to start with price, believe it or not. Now I know I mentioned that as a negative, but I'm also going to say, for me, the price that you pay for these speakers and for what you get, they are excellent value for money. The thing about these speakers is they're not just a new product which a company have said, okay, we need to update our range and let's give them something else with a new bow or whistle. A lot of thought has gone into these speakers, and whether the people who were designing them are actual DJs themselves, or whether they've just gone out and spoken to DJs, someone somewhere deserves a pat on the back, because these speakers cater for so many different types of artists. So why are they so good? Well, this little amp here is probably one of the best things you're ever going to see on a speaker. I think it's going to be leading the way for other manufacturers. The fact that you can put in so many different inputs and have them running all at the same time without relying on using something separate for a source controller. Many speakers you have to choose one or the other, so you can choose Bluetooth or you can choose a mic in, etc. Not so with this. You can use multiple inputs all at the same time, and that really adds to your flexibility, whether you're a DJ or whether you're a street artist. You know, if you're going to want to plug your guitar in and your mic, and you might want to plug in your little MP3 player so you've got background music to sing to, it can all happen at the same time, and that is fantastic. And it's one of those things I think once you've had, you're going to miss if you try and change what you're using and it doesn't have it. A whole load of thought has gone into this, and it's just ideal for so many different applications. Another major plus point for me is the fact that there's no poles needed and there's no speaker stands needed. It's common logic that the less moving parts there are in something, the less things that can go wrong. And so with these speakers, you're not going to have to worry about taking speaker stands, scrims, lighting to go underneath the scrims. You haven't got to worry about your speaker pole thread going. You haven't got to worry about your speaker poles full stop, or the little cable tie things that you'd have on your speaker poles to hide the cables. It's so simple and it makes sense. Not only is it quick to set up, it's just straightforward. You just plug it in, you plug the columns in, and away you go. And for me now that I've used something like this, I will never go back to using speakers on poles or speakers with poles, because there's just no point. Another positive that I'm going to mention, and I might get ridiculed for this because you might think I've lost the plot, but these columns, because they have speakers going through, if I show you, because they have the speakers going through the middle part as well as the upper part, this will actually make a difference to what you hear. It did to me. Now I compared this side by side with the turbo sound, which is very similar, but the turbo sound doesn't have speakers in this half of its column, and when I compared them, you can actually tell the difference. You can actually
it's hard to explain. You can actually feel or hear the sound from the floor to the top of the speaker. Now, like I say, you might think I'm a bit wacky for saying that, but I do advise you, when you go to a shop, and I advise you to go to a shop to have a listen to these in person, if you can, play one of these next to a speaker that has like a separate subwoofer and a top, or a speaker that's a column speaker but doesn't have speakers in this part of it. Play them side by side and tell me I'm wrong. And I honestly, it really adds to the sound quality. So I think lastly then I would say, for the price, the build quality, the functionality and the sound quality is brilliant, and it's honest. I think somehow we're managing to get a whole load of quality at a very, very good price. And well, isn't that what we all want when we spend our money? If you found this video helpful, as always, please click on one of my music videos, even if you've just got it playing in the background or you've muted the volume. Every click helps. I've been DJ80. Thank you very much for watching.